Something else. You guys, hey, welcome everybody. So glad to have you. Tasha, thanks for just sharing that. That's so awesome. 12 kids, like there's some kind of special award right there just for 12 kids and grandkids now. It's so amazing. And what you said there is so relevant to what we're going to talk about today and so relevant to all of us, right? Every single one of us will get going and then we'll slip into a survival mode, or we'll just we'll get somewhere and it's kind of comfortable. And so we got to get in maybe autopilot or cruise control. And you're exactly right that we got to come along and find some spark. So I'm so happy, so excited that you guys are loving the podcast and the content going through it and is relighting those fires. I have to tell a story though. I took my kids and we went to Mongolia. I led a trip over to Mongolia and we rode ponies across the steppe in Mongolia. It was just a life-changing experience. We got to stop in Seoul, Korea on the way and in Beijing, China on the way back and see the Great Wall and the Forbidden City. And it was unbelievable. In Mongolia, it was spectacular. I had a great experience. I'm getting on the airplane to fly home and I'm sitting, so the flight from Ulaanbaatar to Beijing, and did I get my countries mixed up? It was the capital of, I think it's Ulaanbaatar. It's the capital of Mongolia. So we're flying out and I sit next to this lady and she was a professor and then she started a school, and it was one of the few schools that was sponsored by the Dalai Lama. And she's directing the school there in Mongolia, just an amazing woman. And we get talking about, I was telling her we had 7 children and she's like, oh my goodness, your wife, she's like almost to 4th level. And I'm like, what does that mean? And she was just like all giddy with like, I can't even believe I'm sitting next to you and your wife's almost a 4th level. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, well, in Mongolia, we celebrate mothers. And if you have 2 kids, you're 1st level. If you have 4 kids, you're 2nd level. You have 6 kids, you're 3rd level. 4 kids is 4th level. Your wife is almost a 4th level mom. And it was just this reverence and awe she had for my wife. It was beautiful to see how much they value motherhood. And they bring all the moms into the capital, and the ruler there in Mongolia comes out and like greets them, gives them awards and honors. I mean, they just honor motherhood and families there. So with 12 kids, that's like 6th level. I mean, that stuff is awesome. So I love that. And I love that. We love families so much. So today, thank you for all being here. And those of you watching the recording, I know not everyone can make it on the schedules. Today, we're going to talk about, revisiting the vision you have for your family. And I know you have a vision. This is a very intentional group of people here. And I know you started with a vision, and I'm assuming probably your vision has changed or adjusted or kind of shifted along the way. It's maybe dynamic, right? And moves a little bit. But it's so easy for us to drop a vision, lose sight of our vision, to drift off course from our vision, or to maybe not have a vision yet, not put in, because it takes a lot of mental effort, right? Mental, spiritual, soul work even, to get a really clear vision. And so in certain aspects of our life, we may not have a vision. So might we have a really clear vision over here and kind of missing one over there. And in any of those scenarios or any other one, unless we are just genuinely aligned with a clear vision of who we want to become, how we want to do life, how we're going to treat others, how we're going to raise our children and the family legacy, then it's easy to slip into the survival mode, or to slip into drifting or coasting along through life. It's easy to get caught up in going through the motions. It's also easy to begin making decisions or slip into patterns or habits that are taking us down a road we do not want to go down. And maybe not even the road so much as the destination. We're on a road that's going to take us somewhere we do not want to be. And so man, you guys, I just right now got off from interviewing just a great gentleman for my podcast, and that I'm interviewing 3 or 4 guys a week right now. I mean, guys who are doing just amazing things, who are just solid human beings, and hearing their stories and hearing the mission and the message they have for their work and their world is just so incredible. And it was last week I had a good conversation with a gentleman, and he talked a lot about this. And in fact, he had been a very extremely successful real estate investor. And then he started teaching real estate courses, and that was extremely successful. And somewhere along the way, he stopped and he was like, "Hey, what am I doing here? Like, what is it that I really want the most?" And he realized that he wasn't being the family man he wanted to be. He was being a really successful businessman. He kept telling himself he was doing it for his family, but he wasn't being the family man he wanted to be. And he's just a very devout Christian man, and he realized he wasn't working on that relationship with Christ either, and he wanted to have that. And so he said, ultimately, I had to start over and start with a new vision of what it is I wanted most in my life, and then design my life around that vision. Where most of us, we kind of go along and we pick something and we're like, I pick a certain job or a certain career, or we pick a place to live. And then we try to fit our vision into that. And so today, with you guys today and your permission, and I want you to think about this and write about it if you can, and share it. And even those of you watching the recording, please do the thinking and the writing and have this conversation. And after this, you'll hopefully have this conversation with your spouses and with your kids and really do a deep dive into this. But I wanted to start today revisiting the vision. And it might, and actually it would be fun to go back and go back to when you were just getting married and when you're just starting your family, and what you dreamed about, what you talked about, the vision you had then. Remember that before you had kids, all the vision and dreams you had of what it would be like when you had kids, and how different reality is from the dreams, right? In the dreams, there's like very few poopy diapers and runny noses and terrible nights and no sleeping for decades. Right? You're like, come on, man, this wasn't part of my dream and my vision. But let's go back, and if you can, throw it in the chat box, or jump on the mic if you can. But let's start revisiting that. What are the elements of your vision? And we can start there. It'll just start, and we'll catch in from inspiration from each other. And I just want to rekindle the spark. I want to rekindle that flame of the vision you want for your family. And it can be the vision of right now, and it can also include the vision of the future. And I'll share while you guys are thinking about yours or writing them in. Part of ours, we want a very long-term family legacy. Like Rachel and I frequently talk about grandkids and great grandkids. I mean, we're thinking long-term, and we want to create a family culture and a family legacy and actual properties where the whole family, everybody comes back and gets together often. And we have those relationships, and we're building that family legacy through generations. There's going to be at least 3 generations that we can touch. Hopefully we live long enough to even go to 4. Like, I want to live a long time and have this family legacy where I can picture myself, you guys, with the long white beard, the wise old grandpa with the long white beard. I can see it. And I go, oh, it's so exciting. But we want to have those kinds of relationship with our great grandkids. And so then we work back to today and the kind of relationship and the quality of life and who we need to be so that our children want to be right with us and become these great souls. So again, that's big picture thinking, but let's start sharing. let's share some of the vision. And if some of you are willing to jump on mic, I know you're working on different things or driving or wherever you're doing, but if you can share, let's start revisiting. And if you have a place where you can write, or at least take some notes on your phone or a device or even a journal or notebook or something, let's revisit this, because there is unbelievable power in revisiting a vision. And like it says in the Bible, right? The Bible says, without a vision, the people perish. And man, this couldn't be more accurate or more true. If we don't have a vision, we drift, we coast, we get lost. We get caught up in the grind. You get thinking that life is grind. And without a vision, life is just grind, right? It's just transactional. It's just going through the motions of existence. But man, with a vision, now we're going somewhere. Now we're doing something. Now things have purpose and meaning, right? And so I don't know. We always have our journals with us, and I'm always thinking and writing about this. But let's start sharing. So I'll read this. Speaking of visions, a vision of beauty and wonder just walked in. Behold, Rachel is here.
I'm here.
Okay, so Tasha wrote, our main goal is for our family to love God first. We want our children, grandchildren, etc., to be true to their belief in God, to strive for eternal life together. We also want our family to love to be together, to love and serve each other. Fantastic, beautiful elements of a family vision. So let's keep sharing. Thank you for sharing that, Tasha, so much. Anyone else? You can jump on mic or you can throw it in the chat. What else is in the vision for your family? And it doesn't have to be even strictly family or parenting. I know a lot of it is around family, but maybe you have an individual vision. Maybe you have a dream and maybe you've let go of it. And it's time to rekindle that too, because Rachel and I teach this all the time. Like the best way to help your kids pursue their dreams is by you leading the way, by pursuing your dream, showing them how it's done. And so part of the vision is you doing beautiful things, great things, powerful things. Bring this down.
I feel like it's like right in your face.
I'll just put it right here because they only come to see and hear you, babe.
I don't think so.
I'm just here as a space holder until you get here.
Thank you for holding the place.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna jump in here. I love what you were talking about there with having your own dream and vision personally, individually, because I really think that is a key part of this. Like, yeah, in fact, the title of this was talking about this family vision, this family legacy. And that is important and that's critical, but ultimately that comes down to this collection of individual dreams and legacies, which starts with the parents. Like it has to start there. In fact, I think if we're going to build a family dream and a family legacy, we have to get clear about our own dreams. Because just like you hinted at there, you said, unless we are pursuing our own dreams individually, we're not really modeling for our children how to pursue their dreams. And we're not modeling how to pursue dreams in general, or how to build a collective dream, because we don't know how to do it on an individual basis.
And then they won't know how either.
Exactly. And then they won't know how either. And so it can get confusing because we want to be like, hey, let's do this family vision together, this thing. And without someone leading out saying, okay, this is the dream. This is my dream. Because I think it starts there. It starts with the individual dream. This is my dream. I'm pursuing it. I'm working on it. I've achieved it. Here's my results. And then people in your family are like, wow, that's amazing.
Because it is both instructive and inspiring.
Exactly.
And so people want to follow inspiration. Whereas if we're just kind of going along,
or just talking about it, or just it's vaguely there as some vague idea, then it's not motivating, it's not inspiring, it's not tangible. I know personally in our own lives, like we've seen this again and again with our kids, because we will come up with some dream. This happens a lot. We come up with these crazy dreams. I was just telling my aunt, that's where I was, my aunt's house, our most recent dream. And we talk about it. We tell the kids about it. In a lot of ways, though, we're the ones to make it happen, because one, it's our dream. And two, we have more life experience, more resources, more wisdom. At this point in our life, we're the ones making the dreams possible for the most part. But then, so we come up with a dream, we talk about it, we share it with our kids, and then we go to work making it happen. And then when it comes to the point of where I'm like, hey guys, guess what? We made this dream possible. We're going, or we're doing this, or we made this amount of money. Then they're like, dang, wow, you guys get stuff done.
Yeah.
You talk about it and then you make it happen. You do it. And that inspires them to dream in the first place, and then to go about like making stuff happen, making their own dreams happen. So then they're able to come up with their dream, and they have this modeling they've seen going on of how to accomplish it. And so I think it's very critical that we pay attention to our individual dreams, because they are going to be the fuel for modeling this dream building process, so to speak.
We can contrast that with, let's say we weren't pursuing our dreams for whatever reason, but telling the kids, you guys go chase your dream,
Or
go get a vision for your life and go chase it down, go build it, do all that stuff. To me, it seems like that would fall a little flat and be a little bit empty.
right. Or even just talking about this big family dream or pursuit, but without the real tangible action steps, or it's like there's some quote out there. It's something about build your castles in the air, but then you have to put the foundation in. You have to put the foundation on the ground. And so we have to go through this type of process I'm talking about to connect these. Sometimes our dreams are out here, way, way up there. They're very vague. They're very airy-fairy in a way, they're very long off, far, 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 far away. And that's not connected to real life, especially not for kids. Kids who are so in the moment. I mean, especially from when they're young, they live in the moment. That's all they know is the moment. And so if we talk about something that's so far, like my 5-year-old still, she still has a hard time with her birthday that's in October. Like, when is that? Like
how many days?
So far
How far?
away, you have to make it real for them. You have to connect it to the present. And so when we can come up with, I guess that's why I'm talking about starting with the modeling, because when we model it, we are connecting the dots over time. And so then we create these dots in their mind of like, oh, I remember when mom and dad talked about that. And then later they actually achieved it. You're connecting dots for them so that they see this process of connecting the dots.
The same is true. We've seen that with people who have met individuals and families who their vision literally is in the next life, and the next life this, and the next life this, and the next life this. And I was like, what about this life? It's like what we create and do and build and become in this life is also a heaven or a hell.
Mm-hmm.
I was recently thinking of I'm reading the Divine Comedy by Dante, and there's a section in there where he talks about the special hell that's reserved specifically for the uncommitted. And I thought, man, that's true. I don't know how that'll play out in the next life, but that's true in this life. There's a special hell in this life for people who are uncommitted. And it's the hell of a mediocre existence and mediocre results, and not really getting into something, not having a vision, a dream, a goal, not chasing anything, just kind of going with the flow and drifting or floating or coasting. To me, that's a special kind of hell, like just the mediocre existence. And so again, ties back to this whole idea of creating a vision for our lives, and then saying, what are we doing today, right now, that aligns with that vision?
Well, and tying in even more with the topic is getting the clarity, because we were talking about the clarity, and this is one of those missing pieces, because very often what we see happening is that the dreams and ideas and visions you have for yourself and your family are not specific enough. They're very far distant, they're very vague, they're very general. And that type of dream, while it's nice and pleasing and enjoyable, it doesn't have the power to put you into action. It doesn't have the power to motivate you on a daily basis. It doesn't have the power to make you overcome very difficult challenges or obstacles. And so when we're talking about clarity, at least I would say that this is a process for sure. But I think it begins by getting clear about dreams and goals that are much closer to you. Does that make sense? You want to pick something that you could do this year, for one example.
Or even this week, we can get that close.
Yeah, but I'm saying a year because I want it to be a bigger thing. Because I think bigger dreams, just like you're talking about, dumb goals, demanding, unrealistic, meaningful, and bold, those types of goals require a lot from you. They require a lot of growth and effort. Those are the types of goals that change your life. Those are the types of goals that transform your family. And we're speaking from experience here. Unless you have those types of goals, and unless they're near enough in the future that you could do them within a year, there's a lot of power that's lost. Because here's what happens. You guys have heard me talk about this before. I think there's a book by, I forget his name, but it's called The 12-Week Year. And in his idea, even a year is too long, because what happens, but I'm using this example because when we have a goal that's decades away, right? Or in the next life, or it's even 5 or 10 years away, it doesn't move us to act today. And in the 12-week year, he talks about how he actually he uses 12 weeks as a year. He wants you to use 12 weeks as though it was 1 year, and create and achieve a 1-year goal within 12 weeks. But the same idea is true if you're doing it in a year. If you're doing something in a year or in 6 months, you have to take action every single day in order to make that happen. That's the type of clarity and vision we're talking about. When you're talking about getting vision for your family, lifestyle, and dream, it needs to be so close that you have to take action every single day to make it happen. I would say where we are right now, literally right now in our life, is a good example.
Yeah.
Because we have all these big things coming up and we can't waste a day. We have to be working on it every single day, because we're planning to move to Portugal, and in the meantime go to Guatemala and then Norway and then backpack Europe before we get to Portugal. So we have a lot we're trying to do. And every single day we have to be doing something to take action on it. So every single day I'm like, okay, what can I do? What's next to take action? I've got to turn in the stuff for the bank account in Portugal. I've got to list the house. I've got to buy this, all of those things. We've got all of these things that are actionable steps that I can't wait. I mean, not like I can't wait, but like I can't hesitate. I can't procrastinate on taking action on these things, or it won't get done in time. Literally, it won't.
That's the key. So we have to set ourselves up. The way we can set ourselves up for success is have a vision and dreams and goals and plans and schedules that are so invigorating and so close that we can't procrastinate. Otherwise, who can relate here? We are master procrastinators, right? Oh
Mhm.
man, we just push and push and push and push, right? You guys are familiar with the story I've told many times about this couple I met, and they every year promised their kids they were going to do this big trip, this big special trip, and then every year they put it off. And then after their kids moved out, were raised and moved out, they kept promising, look, when dad retires from the mine, we're going to take the kids and the grandkids, we're going to make up for all those lost years, we're going to do something epic. And then just with massive tears of regret, just sobbing, she said that he'd been retired for 11 years and they never did anything. And now his health was so bad they couldn't. They had forfeited their chance to take action on that family dream. They talked about it every year. They talked about this family dream and had forfeited, procrastinated it every year until they literally forfeited their chance to do it. It just breaks my heart every time I think of that. That was such a great reminder for me to keep pushing, keep trying, keep making those attempts. So I want to hear some more from you. Turn on those mics, throw them in the chat. Let's come up with some more specific, palpable, a little bit
Tangible.
closer in time visions, pieces of the vision for your family life. And you're not married to it. We're just kind of having a
We're
dream.
not married to it.
We're just having a dream session right now. And it might be things you dreamt about when you were a little girl. It was the funniest thing the other day. We're driving along and our 8-year-old was like, ooh, this is the song I'm going to play at my wedding.
Yeah.
I was
So
like,
cute.
she's 8. And she's like, got it. I'm thinking about my wedding. It was so cute. And so some of you may have had dreams from a very long time ago. So let's share.
Well, and while they're sharing, I just want to say something, because the reason why we're emphasizing closer dreams, closer goals, closer visions, is because ultimately that's what your life is made up of. Your life is created and I keep wanting to use this word, but I'm not sure how to say it. A culmination. Is that how you say it? Of these smaller dreams and experiences. Like our entire life is built on that. It is built on one dream after another that we pursued until we achieved it. And then we got the next one.
It's dream stacking.
It's dream stacking. That's exactly what it is. And we've all done this to some degree. This isn't like unique to us per se. This is what we do. Although a lot of us, and I know we started on this path, do it in a way because that's what is expected. You graduate from high school. That's one goal and dream, right? And then you go to college and then you graduate from that and then you get a job and then you buy a house and then you get married and then you have kids. We did all of that. And by the time we were 25 or younger, we'd achieved all of that. And then we were like, well, now what? We've got nothing left till retirement. That was really how it was. We couldn't see anything else. Maybe, the next was like, you would get your master's degree and then you would get a raise. That was the next thing. And then you would retire at 65 and we were travel. That was literally what we had. And so we're sitting there at 23, like,
there's literally
that's
35 years of
now
just
we just
blank
do this
Groundhog
until
Day.
65. But that's the formula most of us are given. That's lame. That's a lame formula. So we came up with our own that we think has been way better. And in the meantime, we've literally lived multiple lifetimes. Like, I'm not even kidding you how many lives we've lived. We're like a cat here. Or at least on our 9th life, right? Not that we're going to die or anything, but we've lived multiple lifetimes as a result because we decided to start pursuing other things. Then we were like, well, let's go move to Costa Rica. And we did that. And let's go. Well, then we failed and the stock market crashed and we had to go back. And then we had to get a new dream. Well, let's go live in the Dominican Republic. We did that. Let's build a location independent business. That took a while. Let's live in India. We did that. Let's live in Alaska. Let's drive from Alaska to Argentina. Let's move to Europe. We had a new dream on the horizon that we kept pursuing. And so that then becomes what your life is made up of. These individual, bold dreams that you pursue one after the other. But if you just have this one big, faraway dream, then you don't have the power needed or necessary to take action on making your life more extraordinary today. Does that make sense? Amy is raising her hand. Yes, Amy.
Well, it's Amy's husband. Hey.
Oh, good. Yeah, great.
That's a manly voice you have there.
Amy.
I'm Amy, and I'm so attractive. No. So, I mean, like when I'm hearing you guys talk about that and setting appropriate goals and like kind of putting the pedal to the metal, and especially when you mentioned that book, the 12-week year, I think I read it years ago, but it reminded me of a quote that was, you'll kind of expand or contract your timeline or like your effort in relation to your timeline. And so it's really interesting to see it happen over and over again, where you're like, there's no way I can get all this stuff done in 30 days. But if you have to do it in 30 days, you'll figure out a way. Whereas if it's 6 months or even worse, like non-end date, your effort will expand magically and you'll procrastinate along the way. So I'm a big fan of like setting really specific, aggressive goals because of that, because it will, like to me, you're 100% right when it comes to really pushing yourself on that.
Exactly. It's almost like this magical force comes into play that fills the time you have. And so if we'll set timelines and we set deadlines and we have big goals that have a lot of meaning and emotion tied to them, a lot of energy and feeling, man, we can do the most incredible things and live multiple lifetimes. So again, I want to hear from you. I want you to share some of them, and they can be as specific as possible, because I think there's a lot of inspiration that we gather from each other. What are some of the things that are on your mind? What are some of the things that you want to have in your life?
And if you're scared of it, that's probably a good sign that that's the one. If you're scared to like, oh, I don't know if I should say that, that's the one. Baleen.
Well, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. My immediate goal that I would love to have in my life is more peace. I am trying to find ways to ask the right questions to my kids to get them to understand or think differently about each other, so that there will be a lot less fighting. That has been a thorn in my side for a while, and I know I am reactive. So if they're being bratty or mouthy, I don't stay calm for very long. I've gotten better, but I need to practice staying calm so that I can stay clear and ask them questions or give them instruction. And sometimes I have one that just snaps back at me and I'm just like, you would never talk to your dad like that. What do I need to do differently? Because I don't like that. And so, yeah, I'm working on getting some peace in my home.
Oh my goodness. Baleen, that was such a brilliant question. What do I need to do differently to get a different response? That's genius. And I love that. Thank you for sharing that vision and dream of peace. Like, it's huge.
Yeah.
Game changer. And so then you start asking, what can I do differently to bring about the vision or dream?
Well, there was one thing I did that came to mind when you were talking about that. And for me, I don't know how else to word this except in changing the flow of the energy. That's kind of what I thought of. And what I mean by that is a lot of times what happens is our kids will be fighting and arguing and they're like caught in something, and we go in there and we're trying to like stop that. And this can happen, you know, perpetually. But if we learn how to redirect the energy flow, it's almost like it eliminates the problem without you having to solve the problem sometimes. And so that was kind of what came to my mind. So I'm sharing it, but, and I think this can tie into when we come up with something we're pursuing or we're trying to create as a family. And I've noticed that in our own family, like sometimes we get really, there's more disagreement or more friction when we're kind of in a state of limbo or blah. And so when we get re-excited about something we're doing or pursuing, it's almost like there's this better energy that's flowing towards this goal instead of just kind of like stuck here and creating contention, if that makes sense. So sometimes that's the answer as well, is like, okay, we want to have more peace. How can I direct that towards something that would take us in that direction, if that makes sense, instead of staying here trying to manage it.
Yeah, staying in it, because then you just dive right into it and you're participating in the same thing instead
Yeah,
of
it's almost
leaving
like
it.
with the drama triangle, you're breaking the triangle. Like you're doing this thing, you're all here stuck in this triangle. And if you just like, "Whoop, here we go this way, now we're in a circle," there's no more drama triangle. Do you have more to say?
I don't think so. Yeah, because my reaction is usually eventually just go to your room, just go outside and play. Just because I have tried all the questions I have in my mind and telling them to do things. And if that doesn't work, I'm like, basically just get out of my face. And I don't like feeling that way, but that is basically where I get to, and I want to stop it before I get there. So yeah, just questions.
One thing I found that works is like, I will just start vocalizing out loud to my kids. I'm like, what you're doing is, I'm starting to get upset about it. I'm starting to get annoyed.
Oh, good
I'm
idea.
starting to feel angry. And that often is enough for them to be like, oh, okay. And they back down a little. So I don't wait till I get angry. I tell them, I'm starting to feel angry about this. Like, I don't like what
That's a
you're
good
doing.
idea.
I'm just literally vocalizing out loud what I'm thinking and feeling before I get to that point. And then that helps them to kind of diffuse it, because they're like, oh, I don't want mom to get angry. And so they
Good
back
idea.
down. So that's another.
Thank you.
For me, I just say, if this doesn't stop immediately, I will squish you all like grapes.
The problem is they
love
getting
it.
squished.
They're like,
Like,
yes, come squish
yes,
us. And immediately turns into a wrestling match.
Yeah.
But the contention's gone. And now it's
It's
just me
true.
squishing them.
Well, that's another
Total
good
redirect,
example of redirecting the energy, is that they'll be like squabbling about something, and dad will be like, I'm going to squish you like a grape. And then suddenly now they're
like,
excited. They're like, yeah, squish us, dad.
tickle us.
And the contention's gone. So that's another example. And that works even with our 11-year-old.
Even with the big kids. The big kids who are blah,
Yeah,
blah, and like,
it will sometimes.
I'm gonna take you out right now. Oh yeah, you think you can? And then it's on. It's so fun. We have a blast. Okay, thank you for sharing that. That's beautiful. Peace. I would say that's one we should all strive for. Having a vision of peace. Let's share some others, you guys. Other visions, other things you want to have for you or your family. I'm literally biting my tongue here so that you can have time to participate. Come on.
Me too. I'm like, I guess I can't even do it.
We're just gonna sit here and stare at them. You guys are so good looking. We could just sit here and look at you all night.
I'll go. How about that?
Okay.
Because I can't stand awkward silence. I'm like, gotta do
Oh,
something,
good.
gotta fill it up.
It
No,
worked.
like I just took a new role at work where I was always kind of a producer, and I've shifted over to a leadership role, where I'm no longer just held accountable for me. And so with that comes, you find these efficiencies as you do a role for a while, where you're like, I've nailed this, I'm ready to go. And then you level up, and then all of a sudden you don't know what's noise and what's essential, and you're saying yes to everything. And so it's really kind of overextending me, which is great because you grow there. But I think the goal is to, within, again, maybe 12 weeks, maybe less, is to really get a handle on my schedule and be more of the captain of my own ship. And I think I've got that latitude where I'm at, but I have to learn what things I can ignore and what things I have to do. So I think that's a big thing that I'm focused on for the next 90 days or so.
Excellent example.
That's good.
Love that. I love how you articulated that. Every time we level up, there's going to be a little bit of unknown, and a little bit of chaos.
Mhm.
So-
Or a lot.
or a lot of bit of chaos.
A lot of it.
A lot of it.
Yeah.
That is part of the process. Like you were saying, it is part of the growth. And sometimes that's why we don't do it, because we know it's there and we want to avoid it. We're like, oh, I don't want to do that because it's a lot and it's overwhelming and it's challenging. But that is actually where we grow. And that's often where we feel the most alive sometimes, is when we're doing those things. And so as much as we feel like we want to avoid it because it's hard or uncomfortable, we actually need to lean into it, because that's where magic happens. And I like how specific that is. It's like, this is a specific thing. I did kind of want to just dive into this comment a little more and get even more specific. Like, I want to talk through, because this is beautiful here. We want to love God. We want to, our children and grandchildren. So this is like the family legacy here, right? That's what we refer to as the family legacy. When you're not just thinking about your children, but your grandchildren, to be true to their beliefs, to strive for eternal life. We also want our family to love, to be together, and to love and serve each other. Beautiful. What I love to do is to think, okay, what does that specifically look like in day-to-day life? Because when we can start thinking about those specific, oh, wait, if you have stuff, yeah, go ahead.
We were just saying, what goals do we have? We're like, well, we have a lot of vague goals. They're not, but as we're going through all your stuff, we're trying to make those a lot more
Concrete.
Yeah, concrete.
That's good.
Like, I love this. I love that idea that the time frame needs to be something that keeps you moving each day. I really love that.
Mhm.
So, like,
That's good.
when we had our oldest 6 kids, we went on a motorhome tour back east. We'd studied American history that year. So that's something we really want to do again. But I was just thinking, we keep saying we want to do that, but we don't have like a time frame and those kind of things. So we want to do that, that again. And I don't know, we have a lot of things like that. But like I said, we've been in this survival mode of like the next wedding, the next, okay, grandkid, and we just got to really refocus for our younger 6 kids now, give them the same, well, better, hopefully, but good parenting, not burned out parenting.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly.
Yeah, not parenting leftovers.
Right.
Rachel and I
Yeah.
recently had that same conversation because there's a gap with our kids. And so we took our oldest 4 and went all over the globe. And now the youngest 3, like,
Their last 3 years have been in quarantine.
we're like, hey, what in the world? We got to take these 3 and go, we got to go see some countries.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's that same thing. You
Yeah.
mentioned something very, very important there. You guys, if we don't schedule it, it's not likely to happen. But when you go through the effort to put it on the calendar, man, you make things happen. It's almost like you clear the runway and like get it on the calendar and things start to happen. It's so incredible.
Yeah. We're excited to do this with our kids, and we're trying to do this like family home evening lessons with the stuff we're learning from you guys. Okay, what are your goals and dreams and our families? So thank you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Awesome.
Take it and teach it in the day-to-day. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Well, because yeah, what you were saying there, putting it on the calendar and speaking from experience, like I'm the kind of person who doesn't like to have it on the calendar because then I'm like, there's a deadline. Ah, I'm stressing. There's a deadline, right? Like I feel like it has to be done by then. And so you feel this pressure. And my tendency is like, oh, whenever it happens. And that's why we're a good pair in that way, is because he's like, next week. I'm like, are you kidding? Next week? We can't do that. But it's this good balance because if we just did it my way all the time, it would never happen because I'll continually just be like, well, when it works out. But when you have that deadline, even if this is what I've learned through experience, even if you don't reach the deadline, like you don't actually get it done by the deadline, guess what? You still made a ton of progress anyways. And you're that much closer to doing it because you had a deadline. And so I've learned the value of having these deadlines because they kind of like, I think it's Nate was saying before, it forces you to take action because it's coming up. And so you can't just afford to procrastinate and watch Netflix all the time because otherwise it's not going to get done. So while it's stressful or uncomfortable or overwhelming to have that deadline, it's also powerful because it makes you take action. You just can't let it crush you with stress.
I think mentioning Netflix is valuable because I've yet to meet anyone who at the beginning of the year sets a New Year's resolution to watch hundreds of hours of Netflix. And yet that's what they do. Right. And you're like, oh, is that one of your New Year's resolutions? They're like, no, but I'm already at 350 hours and it's only August. Right. You're like, come on, let's go. So
well, back to that idea. Sorry. Back to the idea of like the time gets filled. It just does get filled. If you don't have this hard deadline that you have to be taking action on, it gets filled with something else like Netflix. Go ahead.
I want to share a few small specific dreams and how we've been implementing them. Hopefully that's inspires something for you. And I'd love to share. Again, you can share on the mic or in the chat. You guys know how much we love languages and we want our family to be multilingual. And so I think today is 886 consecutive days on Duolingo for me. And I got into it for ways, and then Rachel got in, and then Kimball got in. He's over 700 days now.
Wait, so hold on. Let me back up a second. So let's say, what we did is we took this vague goal of, and I remember when we talked about this when we were in our early 20s and we got these ideas about traveling and we're like, I want our children to speak multiple languages. That was like one of the things we said, right? And we wrote it down.
Someday.
We have a family that speaks multiple languages. Well, how do you actually put that into action in real life? Well, one of the things is we went and lived abroad in a Spanish-speaking country. That's where we started. But another way that you're bringing up now is something simple like Duolingo. We have the Duolingo app. And it started with you. You have your 800 whatever day streak. I'm at 730 days.
Kimball's
But
right
like
there with you.
our son, Kimball, he's around that and he's been studying French. He already speaks pretty decent Spanish. I mean, it's conversational. Because we lived abroad. Our other daughter is also learning French, but because now we are taking a trip to Norway, she's also learning Norwegian right now. So she's learning French, she's learning Norwegian, and then she wanted to learn Arabic. I don't know where that came from. I mean, we did live in Morocco for 3 months, so there's a connection there. So she's learning French, Norwegian, and Arabic right now on Duolingo. Now, again, it's not a big deal. All of us spend maybe 15 minutes a day on Duolingo, but it's the consistency that over time, you're just exposed to a language. So that's one, I just took over your whole example here. That's one simple way.
This is how we do life.
This is how
I
we
start
do it.
with an idea, Rachel runs
and then
with
I
it.
implement it. But that's one simple idea of we took something vague. We want our family to speak multiple languages and we put it into something that's now a part of our daily routine.
Awesome.
Now, not everyone has that much of a streak.
But
Our
even
18-year-old, he's hit and miss. Our 20-year-old, she doesn't like Duolingo. So
well,
she
because
doesn't do it, but
because she
she's
has
fluent in,
dyslexia, but
yeah,
she's
she has
very fluent in
dyslexia,
Spanish,
but
right? So
she's
it's
fluent in
audible.
Spanish. And our 11-year-old is learning German.
He's doing it, and the little girls even do a little bit here and there.
Oh, it's called Dino Lingo though.
Yeah,
They
they do
have Dino
Dino
Lingo
Lingo. It's
for the
so
little
awesome.
girls. So anyways, I
Uh,
totally derailed or took over
Look at this.
your.
Baleen is at day 223.
Nice.
Yeah, so awesome.
That's fantastic.
That's one example. Another example is I want the kids to learn self-defense. I thought, man, it'd be cool to do martial arts. I've always enjoyed martial arts. I want them to do it. So I started looking for a place, find a place, sign up, pay the membership, go regularly, come home and teach them what I'm learning. Right.
Well, but even before that, back up again here, like you had that intention for a while. So when the earliest I can remember was when we were living in Germany, which was about 6 years ago. And you found a karate
As
place.
soon
there.
as we landed, and we only had bikes. That when we first landed in Germany, we only did bikes. And I
Yeah,
found a
We
place.
spent 3
and
months.
we rode this bike trail through the forest and started doing martial arts class when the kids were little. And then we did it in Morocco.
Then we
and
moved
did
to
it
Morocco
in Mexico.
and we did martial arts there. And then, so we pursued that in every place that we went to, including here where you then just got back into it, but now with Krav Maga on a new level, but they had that foundation there. So again, but the big vision there was we want our kids to be able to protect themselves and to have confidence, right? Those are general ideas, visions,
I like that one.
general.
To raise confident children.
Yeah.
Lots of people have that, but where are the specifics in that?
And so for us, that meant, well, let's do some martial arts so that they have skills to protect themselves and they gain confidence through that. And then we acted that out by finding the classes wherever we were, not using our unique lifestyle as an excuse, like, oh, well, we can't do that because we live in Morocco, right?
Same thing. Again, I'm just trying to throw out examples here so it kind of hits with whatever you're thinking about. Start grabbing hold of things. Another one's music. Like, unfortunately, sadly, tragically, the only music I can play is from some kind of music
Your iPhone.
iPhone. I can sometimes connect to the speaker and play a song. That's a tragedy that I hope to remedy at some point. Maybe in the next life. This is one of those next life goals.
This is for you, your next life goal.
But I wanted music to be played in our house. And so we paid for lessons. We bought instruments. We bought so many instruments. Like, just get the instrument in the house and have the music on and inspire them. And now every day it is so exciting and fulfilling for me. Parker and Kimball and Aaliyah make music together. The piano, guitar, and vocals. And they'll just belt it out. And I'm down here working or we're walking around and they're just singing and playing. Like, yes. Oh man, it's amazing. And of course, because they're doing it, the three littles are just living in this existence of, well, that's just what we do. Like, this family makes music, right? So they're going to grow into it. It's a beautiful thing. Here's another funny example. I have always, before I met Rachel, I was geeking out about emergency medicine. I've always just been drawn to it. I wanted to be a physician and then kind of changed my life course through the mentor. But I've always loved it. So I became an EMT, worked on an ambulance. I've always just been drawn to it. And I want my kids to learn those things. And so I've taught them, first aid things and little life-saving things. And because I have this opportunity now to participate in international disaster relief and rescue at a big high level stuff, right? Which I was geeking out about, talking about a personal dream, right? My personal dream for years has been to participate when there's a natural disaster or war, some kind of trouble. I want to be right there helping. Oh, boots on the ground, first people on the ground to help, right? I love that stuff. And so I'm ramping up my medical skills. So this is me pursuing a personal dream, but it spills over to the family. So I've been buying, what do? I go out and buy a lot more. I spend a lot of money on emergency medical stuff, right? I'm hardcore top dollar stuff, like the best equipment, and then practicing it. And so we practice tourniquets, having the kids putting on tourniquets and all these things. And then the other day, I'm like, man, I was learning about nasal airways. And if your airway gets compromised, you have to do a nasal airway. And so I bought some and I'm like, let's
Is
practice
it called
this.
an intubator? Or-
Yeah, nasal intubation, right? And so the other morning for our morning devotion, I went up I'm like, hey, let's intubate each other. And so we got nasal intubation tubes and we lubed them up and we intubated each other. And it's like, wow, we're laying on the couch practicing nasal intubation. And it's wild, right? It's crazy. And we were all like eyes watering and like, this is nuts. But we all have this experience, right? And it's, I know it's weird, it's bizarre, but I'm chasing this dream and there's actual knowledge now. My kids and Rachel have intubated somebody. You know how cool that is? I mean, there's a lot of ENTs that have never done it, right? And so like to practice those things and
You do sound crazy.
it is crazy. But that's a dream I have and a vision that I'm fulfilling on a practical basis.
Well, okay, I want to add to this story because I think that's very relevant about taking the general, the vague, these bigger ideas, these bigger, what's the word? There's like this word there. It's fuzzy, it's cloudy, it's the vision, but bringing it down and grounding it here and touching on this idea of you having this personal dream that then directly connects and inspires your children, I think is very well demonstrated in this experience with pursuing and having this interest with this humanitarian work, which is a unique type of humanitarian work. Like it's helping people in disasters. But because of that, you've been going to these trainings, and our 18-year-old son, Parker, had the opportunity to go as well. And he was by far the youngest person there at this training. Most of these so they're basically being trained to be able to go do disaster relief, because you can't just let anyone come do that. You can't just be like, hey, any volunteers want to come? You have to have the skills, medical skills, navigation skills, like all kinds of things. And the group that's there being trained to do this, and the ones that are doing the training, are basically special forces, like ex-military, like tons of training, tons of experience. And then there's Parker. And he was the youngest one there. They're all in their 30s, 40s. And of course, all of them were quite interested in this teenager being here. And they're like, oh, did your dad make you come? He's like, no, I wanted to come. I wanted to be here because I've watched my dad pursuing his goals and dreams. And he has all of these amazing stories to tell. He's like, I want to live that kind of life. That's why I'm here, because this is what it takes. And so that right there is like this perfect example of what we're talking about. You have this vision of, I want to do something like disaster relief. That's very vague. In fact, you never even knew how you would ever do that. But you took daily steps to prepare for those, like getting skills and training, even when you didn't really need it for your career. You were interested in it. You were passionate about it. So you study medicine and you got your EMT for fun. And then you've always been able to help. Like you've had so many opportunities to help people. You've saved people's lives. You've had people there when they died. You've like incredible, crazy things have happened. And all along, you're modeling this, and specifically your sons are seeing you live this life. And then they're like, this is what it takes to make it happen. I'm going to do that. And so of his own free will, he joins this training. This was an insane training. They were there for 4 days. In a total of 4 days, they slept 9 hours the entire time. They slept 9 hours in 4 days. They had to sleep on the ground on like concrete. Like it was insane. So this wasn't like some little nice camp.
It was awesome.
And they loved it. Both of them were just like, it was amazing. It was so great. But that's the kind of stuff. And the point being that most of the people there were impressed that this 18-year-old kid like willingly signed up for them and like did it without complaining and was all in. But because he's seen this modeling he's seen it modeled, this pursuit of achieving dreams. And he's like, this is what it takes to be able to do these kind of things. And so you're taking the vague, the big vision, you're making it concrete, you're living it out, and you're showing your children how to do it. And then they follow because they see this is how it gets done.
So ultimately our invitation, you guys, is to spend some time thinking about this and writing about it and getting the vision and a plan in writing, written down. Because, and you guys know this already, and I'm sure you've seen it a lot, maybe even experienced it. If you just keep moving forward without a clear vision, you end up climbing a ladder that's against the wrong wall. With me? You end up spending a lot of time and effort, energy, and life going down a trail that's leading to a place you don't want to go. And so it's worth stopping and checking in frequently and saying, do we have a vision? And is what we're doing in line with our vision? This stuff is game changing. Totally change the course of your life and your kids' lives. If you'll stop and check in with it and say, what's the vision? And how do we take what's vague in general and make it really specific to this week?
Mm-hmm.
And when you fit it in weekly rhythms, it really is astounding how much you can alter the course of your life in just a couple of months. It has this huge magnifying force. In fact, when you start changing your inner world, you can alter your outer world beyond recognition in as little as a few months or a few years. That's how cool this stuff is. Start making these shifts, and by the end of the year, everything can look way better than it does now. Even as good as it is, it can look way better. But it does require action. It does require clarity of vision. So spend some time writing on this and thinking about it. And share it with us if you want. Share it with the group. I love this stuff. I love it. It's so inspiring to me when you start thinking about it and the inspiration that comes to you. And these insights, these ahas, like, oh man, this is what we want. This is how we thought we could do it. And then it just takes fire. It takes off, and the coolest things happen in our families when we do this. Boom. Okay, that's all we got. Any last comments or questions?
Hey, I just wanted to say I appreciate what you've shared. I think I was talking with Tasha, and I think overall our main goal, we have a vision of where we want to be and what we want to do, and we do quite a few things with our family that facilitate that overall vision. But one of the benefits I see of writing it down as we're talking about it is that our kids see specific steps toward the end that takes them and us, that they can replicate it with their children. And I think also it will, obviously there are pain points that we have just with the way we work as a family sometimes, how in the world do you convince everybody to put things away when they're done with them, that sort of thing. I think as we lean into this, we'll think of and find better ways to address things like that as well. So anyway, I just wanted to say thank you. I know I was quite a bit late for I had a job I had to be at, but appreciate what you shared today.
Love it. Thank you for being here. Great insight. You're absolutely right. When you pick something like that and start moving towards it, then any of the pain points will come up to the surface and we address them. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Spot on.
Thanks.
Thank you.
For being here. Okay. Anybody else? If not, thanks for being here. And even those of you watching the recording, thanks for watching the recording. Thanks to you guys for being a part of this community and for caring and raising awesome families and living awesome lives. You guys, we get one shot at life. Let's just make it great and show our kids how to really live while we're alive. Love it. Okay. Love you guys. Thanks for being here. Reach upward.